Hey everybody, this is Richard Radio. Well, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. It's a cold one tonight, sitting at about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is balmy compared to what we've been through lately. I'm holed up in an old farmhouse, boards on the windows, a fire crackling in the corner, and a whole lot of quiet outside. Too much quiet, if you ask me. If you're hearing this, I hope you're somewhere safe, maybe with a cup of something warm, though I'd bet coffee's as rare as a friendly face these days. I'm sipping on some boiled water with a sprig of pine needle taste like a forest. Well, it's better than nothing. I don't know how many of you are out there, or if this signal's even reaching anyone. The old radio tower I'm using, patched together with duct tape and hope, is about a mile down the road. Found it in a field, half collapsed, but I got it working enough to send my voice out into the void. It's a miracle it's still standing. Honestly, the world's gone sideways since the outbreak hit. 3 years ago now? Feels like a lifetime. I started broadcasting about a year into it, when I realized the silence was worse than the danger. Talking keeps me grounded, keeps me from thinking hard about what's out there, shambling in the dark. Let's set the scene. I'm in this farmhouse, like I said, somewhere west of Lincoln. Found it abandoned, doors swinging open, no sign of the folks who lived here before. There's a faded picture on the mantle, a family for smiling at some county fair, but no trace of them now. Maybe they got out early, maybe they didn't. I try not to dwell on it. The house is sturdy, though brick walls, a solid roof, and a cellar I've turned into my fallback spot if things go south. Got a wood stove keeping me warm, but the wood pile's getting low. I've been scavenging what I can from the nearby barns, but most of it's rotted or too damp to burn. I'm down to about a month's worth if I'm careful, and that's got me worried. You don't want to be caught without heat. When the Nebraska winter really kicks in, the outbreak changed everything, didn't it? One day, I'm in Omaha, working at a little community radio station, spinning old country tunes and reading crop reports. The next, the news is talking about some virus out of Chicago, hospitals overflowing, people acting strange. Then the reports got weirder, folks attacking each other, biting, not staying down even after they should have. By the time the government tried to lock things down, it was too late. Cities turned into death traps. I got out, headed west. Figured the open country was safer than gridlock and chaos. I wasn't wrong, but safe's a relative term these days. Out here, it's just me and the wind most nights, and the dead, of course. They're not as thick in the countryside as they were in the cities, but they're still around. You hear them sometimes, that low moan carrying across the fields. I've seen a few, stumbling through the corn stubble, their eyes all wrong, like they're looking through you. I don't go out at night if I can help it. During the day, I've got my routine. Check the traps, reinforce the barricades, scavenge what I can. I've got a shotgun, a hunting rifle, and a crowbar I keep close. The rifle's for distance, the shotgun's for emergencies, and the crowbar's for when things get too close for comfort. Ammo's not infinite, though, so I'm careful. Every shot's got to count. I wasn't always this way. You know, back before all this, I was just Richard, the guy who cracked them jokes on air and mispronounced the names of local farmers. Never thought I'd be boarding up windows or setting snares for rabbits. But you learn fast when the alternative's being lunch. The first time I had to take one of those things down, I froze. It was this old guy, still wearing a tattered flannel shirt, coming at me across the gas station parking lot. I stood there, heart pounding, until he was almost on me. Finally got the crowbar up, and, well, let's just say it wasn't clean. Took me a week to stop shaking after that. Now, it's just part of the day, like chopping wood or boiling water. I try to keep things light when I can. Gotta hold on to something human, right? So I talk to you all, whoever you are. Maybe you're out there in a basement, or up in some attic, huddled around a radio you scavenged from a junk pile. Maybe you got a group, or maybe you're alone like me. Either way, I hope my voice is a little company. I used to play music on my show, but the record player's long gone, and the generator's too finicky to waste on anything but the radio itself. So you get my stories instead. Tonight, I'll tell you about the last person I saw. Not a zombie. Mind you, a real, living person. It's been a while, so bear with me if I get a little long-winded. It was back in June, maybe from months ago. Now, I was out checking my snares near a creek about 2 miles from here. The sun was high, The air warmed for once, and I was feeling almost hopeful. That's when I heard a rustle in the brush to deliver it to be one of the dead. I froze, hand on the crowbar, and called out, "Who's there?" No answer at first, just more rustling. Then this woman steps out, maybe in her 30s, wearing a beat-up jacket and carrying a backpack that looked heavier than she was. Her hair was matted, her face smudged with dirt, but her eyes were sharp, alive. She held up her hands, empty, and said, "I'm not trouble, just passing through." Her name was Clara, or at least that's what she told me. Said she'd been on the road since the outbreak hit Denver. She was looking for her brother, who'd been in Lincoln when things went bad. I didn't have the heart to tell her Lincoln was a ghost town now, overrun months ago. Instead, I offered her some water and a bit of rabbit stew I'd made the night before. She hesitated, like she wasn't sure if trusting me was a mistake, but hunger won out. We sat by the creek, eating in silence at first. She didn't say much, but I could tell she'd seen things. You get that look after a while, like the world's pressed down on you to hard. Clara stayed for a couple of hours. Told me a bit about Denver, how the streets filled up with the dead so fast you couldn't even run. She'd been part of a group for a while, but they got picked off one by one. Raiders, she said, not zombies. People can be just as dangerous as the dead these days, maybe more. She didn't ask to stay, and I didn't offer. Not because I didn't want to, but because I could see she was a wanderer. Some folks can't stay still, not when they're chasing something, even if it's just a memory. Before she left, she gave me a pocket knife, small but sharp, said it was a thank you for the food. I still carry it, tucked in my belt. Makes me feel like I owe her something. Even now, after she left, I watched her disappear down the road, heading east. Haven't seen her since, and I don't expect to. The world's too big and too empty now. But that day stuck with me. It was the first time in months I talked to someone who wasn't trying to eat me or rob me. Made me think about how we're all holding on, each in our own way. Clara was looking for her brother. I'm keeping this radio going. What about you? What's keeping you moving out there? I keep broadcasting because I figure someone's got to. Back in Omaha, the station was my life. I'd sit in that little booth, spinning Johnny Cash or Patsy Cline, talking about the weather like it mattered. Now, the weather's the least of our problems, but I still give reports, mostly out of habit. Today's forecast: cold, cloudy, with a chance of zombies. Stay inside, keep your doors locked, and don't trust anything that moves slower than you do. I know, not exactly the National Weather Service, but it's the best I've got. The farmhouse isn't perfect, but it's home for now. I've got the upstairs boarded up tight, with just one window I can open for air. Downstairs, I've got my radio set up in what used to be a dining room. There's an old table I use as a desk, covered in wires, and a beat-up microphone I salvaged from a school. The cellar's where I keep my supplies: canned beans, some dried corn, a few jars of pickles I found in a neighbor's pantry. It's not much, but it's enough to keep me going. I've got a system for water, too. Collect snow, melt it, boil it. Takes time, but it's clean enough. Food's the bigger problem. The snares catch maybe one rabbit a week if I'm lucky. I've been eyeing some old seed packets I found in the shed, wondering if I could get something to grow indoors, but the soil's frozen solid, and I don't have the no dash. How about the dead don't come around often, but when they do, it's always a problem. Last week, I had one banging on the back door at dawn. I don't know how it got so close without me hearing. Maybe the wind covered its moans. It was a mess, half its face gone, dragging one leg like it was barely holding together. I took it out with the crowbar, quick and quiet. Didn't want to waste a bullet. Afterward, I dragged it out to the field and burned it. The smell's something you never get used to, like meat left too long on the grill. I try not to think about who they were. Doesn't help. Nights like tonight, when the fire's going and the wind's howling, I almost feel normal. Almost. I'll sit here, talking to the mic, and pretend there's a world out there listening. Maybe there is. Maybe you're out there, holed up in some barn or basement, catching my signal on a jury-rigged radio. If you are, let me know you're there. Not literally, I don't have a way to hear you back, but maybe think it. You know, send some good thoughts my way. I could use them. I've been thinking about what comes next. The wood's running low, the food's not infinite, and I can't stay here forever. There's a town about 15 miles north, small place called Milford. It used to have a gas station, a diner, maybe a hardware store. I'm thinking of making a run up there, see if there's anything left to scavenge. It's risky more dead up that way, probably, and who knows what else. But sitting here waiting to starve isn't much of a plan either. I need to prep. Make sure the rifle's ready, maybe rig up a sled for carrying supplies. If I go, I'll tell you about it next time I'm on air, assuming I make it back. For now, I'm keeping the fire going and the door's locked. I've got a can of beans heating up, and I'm trying not to think about how many are left out hands warm. And that's something. The fire's low tonight, just a few logs crackling away, and I'm keeping an eye on that wood pile like it's my bank account. Not much left, but I'm trying not to let it get to me. You gotta keep moving forward, right? So let's pick up where we left off. I was telling you about my plan to head up to Milford, that little town about 15 miles north of here. Been thinking about it all day, weighing the risks. It's not like I can just stroll up there, grab a burger, and call it a day. The roads are a mess, snowdrifts, wrecked cars, and who knows how many of those things wandering around. But the pantry's looking grim, and I'm not about to sit here until I'm eating shoe leather. So I spent today getting ready, figuring out what I'll need for the trip. Got my rifle clean, checked the ammo 20 rounds, which sounds like a lot until you're staring down a pack of zombies. The shotgun's staying here. It's too heavy to lug around, and I need to travel light. The crowbar's coming though. That thing saved my skin more times than I can count. I also patched together a sled from some old planks and a bit of rope I found in the barn. It's not pretty, but it'll hold a few supplies if I find anything worth bringing back. Foods, the priority can stuff, dry goods, anything that hasn't gone bad. Maybe some tools or batteries if I'm lucky. There's a gas station in Milford, or at least there used to be. Might be some jerky or candy bars stashed behind the counter. Assuming nobody's beating me to it, I'm trying not to get my hopes up, but a man's got a dream, right? A Snickers bar would taste like heaven about now. The plan's to head out at first light. Dawn's the best time, less chance of running into trouble when the sun's up. The dead don't seem to care much about day or night, but I've noticed they're slower in the morning, like the cold stiffens them up. Plus, I could see better. Spot any movement in the fields. I'll stick to the back roads, avoid the highway. Last time I passed by Route 6, there were cars piled up for miles, doors hanging open, some with, well, let's just say it wasn't a pretty sight. I don't know if it was zombies or looters, but I'm not taking chances. Before I get too deep into tomorrow's adventure, let me tell you about today. It wasn't all just prepping and planning. I had a visitor, not the living kind. Unfortunately, around noon, I was out back checking the snares when I heard that telltale moan, low and guttural, coming from the tree line. I ducked behind the barn, heart pounding, and peeked out. It was just one, thank goodness, shuffling through the snow. Looked like it used to be a farmer, overalls, boots, one arm missing below the elbow. It was moving slow, head tilted like it was listening for something. I waited, hoping it'd pass, but it started wandering toward the house. I didn't want to use the rifle sound carries too far out here, and one shot could bring more of them, so I grabbed the crowbar and circled around, keeping low. Got close enough to smell it, that rotten stink that clings to the air. One swing to the head, and it went down, didn't even twitch. I dragged it out to the ditch across the field and set it on fire. Took a while to catch. With all the snow sitting here in the farmhouse, still in one piece, thank goodness, the fire's low. Just a faint glow now, and the wind's died down a bit outside, leaving things quiet to quiet. If I'm honest, it's probably around 10 degrees out there. Cold enough to make you think twice about stepping outside. I'm wrapped in a blanket, sipping on some boiled water. No pine needles tonight, just plain and simple. My bones are aching from today's trip to Milford, but I made it back, and that's what counts. Let's dive into how it went, because it was a day. Let me tell you, I set out at dawn, like I planned. The sky was gray, that heavy, overcast kind that makes everything feel a little heavier. I had my backpack, rifle slung over my shoulder, crowbar tucked in my belt, and that makeshift sled dragging behind me. The county road was rough, snow packed hard in some spots, drifted over in others. I stuck to the edges where the wind had cleared patches, keeping my eyes on the horizon for any movement. The first couple of miles were uneventful, just me and the crunch of my boots in the snow. I kept thinking about what I might find in Milford, a can of soup, a bag of flour, maybe, if I was really lucky, some coffee. It's funny how the little things become dreams when the world's like this. About an hour in, I saw my first sign of trouble. There was a pickup truck half buried in a drift, doors wide open, no bodies, no blood. But the cab was trash seats torn up, dashboard smashed. Looked like someone had been through it in a hurry. I gave it a wide berth. Didn't want to risk anything popping out. Kept moving, checking over my shoulder every few steps. That's the thing about being out here, you're never really alone, even when you want to be. There's always something watching, or at least it feels that way. Milford came into view around mid-morning, just a cluster of low buildings poking out of the snow. The gas station was my first stop, a little place with a faded sign that read, Pete's Fuel and Snacks. The windows were smashed, glass crunching under my boots as I stepped inside. It was picked over, no surprise there. Shelves were empty, the cooler doors hanging open with nothing but a few shattered bottles inside. I checked behind the counter, hoping for something overlooked, and got lucky. A single pack of beef jerky wedged under a pile of receipts. It was stale, but sealed, so I stuffed it in my pack. Not exactly a feast, but it's something. The rest of the gas station was a bust. Found a lighter, half full, and a road map of Nebraska, which I took. Maps are gold these days. GPS is long gone, and you never know when you need to find a back road. I was about to head out when I heard it, a low moan, coming from the back room. My stomach dropped. I gripped the crowbar and eased toward the door, keeping my steps light. Pushed it open with the tip of my boot, and there was a zombie, stuck halfway under a fallen shelf. It was a woman, or used to be her. Hair matted with blood, one eye missing. She clawed at the floor, trying to get free, but the shelf had her pinned good. I didn't wait for her to figure it out. One quick swing with the crowbar, and she was done. I checked the room for anything useful, but it was just junk. Broken chairs, a busted radio, some moldy boxes. Left it behind and moved on. Next stop was the hardware store across the street. The door was boarded up, which gave me hope maybe nobody had gotten inside. Took me a good 20 minutes to pry the boards off, working quiet as I could. Inside, it was dark, smelled like dust and oil. Most of the shelves were empty, but I found a box of nails, a screwdriver, and a small propane canister, the kind you'd use for a camp stove. The canister was a real score. Propane means heat, maybe even a way to cook without burning through my wood. I loaded it all onto the sled, feeling a little better about the trip. Still no food, though, and that was weighing on me. I decided to check one more spot, a little diner at the edge of town. The sign was gone, but I remembered it from years ago, back when I passed through Milford on my way to Lincoln. The door was unlocked, which wasn't a good sign. Inside, it was a mess, tables overturned, dishes smashed, a faint smell of rot hanging in the air. I poked around the kitchen, found a couple of cans of tomato soup and a bag of flour that looked okay. Not much, but enough to keep me going for a bit. I was checking the pantry when I heard something, footsteps, heavy and deliberate, coming from the street. I ducked behind the counter, heart racing, peeked out and saw 3 figures moving through the snow. Not zombies, the fast, the purposeful. They were bundled up, carrying weapons. One had a rifle, another a bat, the third some kind of machete. Raiders, maybe, or just survivors like me. But I wasn't about to roll the dice. I stayed low, barely breathing, until they passed. They didn't come into the diner, thank goodness, but I heard them talking, low and urgent. Couldn't make out the words, but the tone wasn't friendly. I waited a good 10 minutes after they were gone before I moved, then grabbed my stuff and got out fast. The trip back was tense. I kept expecting those guys to pop up again, or worse, a pack of zombies drawn by the noise. But the road was clear, and I made it to the farmhouse by late afternoon. Dragged the sled into the cellar, locked everything up tight, and took a minute to catch my breath. The haul wasn't huge, but it's enough to buy me some time. 2 cans of soup, the flour, the jerky, plus the tools and propane. I'm calling it a win, even if my nerves are still shot. Sitting here now, I'm thinking about those people I saw. Were they just passing through like Clara? Or are they set up nearby, watching, waiting? The idea of a group out there makes me uneasy. I've been alone so long. I'm not sure how I'd handle neighbors, especially ones with weapons. Part of me wants to find them, see if they're decent. But the other part, the part that's kept me alive, says stay clear. Trust is hard to come by these days, and I've got enough to worry about without inviting trouble. The farmhouse feels safer tonight, though I nailed up a few more boards on the back door, just in case, and I've got the propane canister stored. In the cellar, I'm planning to ration the soup and flour, maybe mix up some flatbread or something. Never been much of a cook, but I'm learning. Back in Omaha, I lived on takeout and microwave dinners. Now I'm figuring out how to stretch a bag of flour into a week's worth of meals. Funny how life changes. I keep thinking about that diary. I found Emily's diary. Read a few more pages today while I was eating. She wrote about her dog, a little terrier named Max, how he chased squirrels in the backyard. Made me miss Rusty even more. I wonder if Emily's out there, if she's still got Max, if she's still writing in that diary. Probably not, but it's a nice thought. I put the diary back under the floorboard. Didn't feel right keeping it out. It's hers, you know. Even if she's not coming back, the spider, Carl, is still hanging out under my bed. Saw him scurry across the floor earlier, probably hunting whatever invisible bugs he's living off. I'm starting to like the little guy. He's a survivor, like me. Maybe I should start a Club Survivors Anonymous for lone radio hosts and resourceful spiders. We could have meetings, swap stories about dodging zombies and eating questionable soup. Okay, maybe I'm getting a little punchy from the day's adrenaline. Tomorrow, I'm staying put. Need to rest, take stock, maybe try baking that flatbread. I'll check the snares. Haven't had a rabbit in a while, but I'm due for it. Some luck. The wood pile's still a concern. I burned through a couple of logs today just to stay warm. Might need to scout for more soon. Maybe check the barns down the road. For now, though, I'm focusing on what I've got. The propane's a game changer and might even let me save some wood. If I can figure out how to use it safely. I've been thinking about why I keep doing this. The radio thing. It's not just about staying sane, though that's part of it. It's about leaving something behind. You know, if I don't make it, if this farmhouse becomes my last stand, maybe someone will pick up this signal someday. Maybe they'll hear my voice. Know I was here. No, I tried. That's worth something. And if you're out there listening right now, you're part of it. You're the reason I keep talking, keep telling these stories. So thanks for that. Whoever you are, the fire's almost out now. Just a few coals glowing. I'm going to toss on another log, check the locks, and call it a night. Got a lot to do tomorrow, but for now, I'm just glad to be here, safe and warm. If you're out there, keep your doors locked and your fire's burning. The wind's picked up outside, howling like it's got something to say, and it's probably dipping below 10 degrees now. I'm bundled up in every layer I own, sitting close to the wood stove, with that same old mug of boiled water keeping my hands from freezing. It's been a long day, and I'm feeling it in my bones. But I'm here, talking to you, and that's enough to keep me going. Let's pick up where we left off, with me settling in after that Milford trip, ready to hunker down and make sense of things. Today was all about staying put, like I said I would. No big adventures, just the usual routine, but even that's never simple these days. I started the morning checking the snares out back, hoping for a rabbit or maybe a squirrel if I got lucky. No, dice empty again. It's been over a week since I caught anything, and it's starting to feel like the animals are smarter than me. Or maybe they're just gone. The fields around here used to have deer, rabbits, even the occasional fox. But now it's like they've all vanished. Could be the cold, could be the zombies scaring them off. Or maybe it's just bad luck. Whatever it is, it's got me worried. The pantry's not empty yet, but it's not exactly overflowing either. After the snares, I took a walk around the perimeter of the farmhouse, checking the boards on the windows and doors. Everything's holding up, but I noticed a few cracks in the wood by the back door. Nothing major, but enough to let a draft in, and I don't need any extra cold sneaking inside. I grabbed the hammer and those nails from the Milford hall, patched things up best I could. It's not perfect, but it'll do for now. While I was at it, I dragged a couple of old crates from the barn to stack against the door, just for extra weight. If something wants to get in, they'll have to work for it. The rest of the day was spent messing with that bag of flour I found. I figured I'd try making that flatbread I mentioned. Never baked a thing in my life before all this, unless you count heating up frozen pizza. Took me a while to get the hang of it. Mixed the flour with some water, a pinch of salt from a shaker I found in the kitchen, and kneaded it into something that looked vaguely like dough. Used the propane canister and a skillet to cook it over the stove. Burned the first one to a crisp, but the second came out okay, chewy, bland, but edible. Mixed it with some of that tomato soup, and it was almost a meal. Felt like a small win, like I was figuring things out. I saved the rest of the dough for tomorrow, wrapped it in a cloth and stashed it in the cellar where it's cool. Speaking of the cellar, I spent some time down there organizing what I've got. The 2 cans of soup, the jerky, the bag of rice, the pickles. It's not much, but it's mine. I also found a jar of honey tucked behind some old paint cans, probably left by the family who lived here before. It's crystallized, but I figure I can melt it down. Maybe use it to sweeten things up. Little discoveries like that keep you going. You know, like finding that diary yesterday or Clara's pocket knife. They're reminders that there's still something left in the world, even if it's just a jar of honey or a kid's handwriting. I've been thinking about that diary again. Emily's. I didn't pull it out today, felt like I needed to leave it be for a bit, but it's been on my mind. She wrote about normal kid stuff, like arguing with her brother over who got the last pancake, or how her dad would sing off-key to old rock songs on the radio. It's strange. Reading about a life that doesn't exist anymore makes me wonder what I'd write if I kept a diary now. Day 1134, burned a flatbread, saw a spider, didn't die. Not exactly poetry, but it's honest. Maybe I'll start one just to keep track of things. Or maybe I'll stick to talking to you folks. Feels less lonely this way. The spider, Carl, is still my only roommate. Saw him crawling up the wall near the stove today. Probably drawn to the warmth. I let him be, he's not hurting anyone. And I figure he's got as much right to survive as I do. I keep wondering what he's eating. No flies, no moths, just dust and shadows down here. Maybe he's got a secret stash of crumbs somewhere. If he does, I might have to negotiate a trade. Carl's got the right idea. They'll keep it simple, stay out of trouble, and don't make a fuss. I could learn a thing or two from him. The big thing on my mind today, besides the food situation, is those people I saw in Milford, those 3, with the weapons, moving like they own the place. I keep replaying it, wondering if they saw me, if they're closer than I think. The farmhouse is out of the way, tucked off a dirt road that's half buried in snow. But it's not invisible. If they're scavenging, they might stumble across me eventually. I've been careful not to leave tracks swept the snow behind. Me when I got back yesterday, but you never know. I'm thinking about setting up some kind of warning system, maybe string with cans tied to it. Something to make noise if anyone gets too close. Paranoid, maybe, but paranoid's kept me breathing this long. I've been wondering what I'd do if they showed up. Talk, fight, run. Hard to say until it happens. Clara was one thing, she was alone. Didn't seem like she wanted trouble. A group's different. Groups have plans, hierarchies, agendas. Back in Omaha, right after the outbreak, I saw what groups could do. People banded together for safety, sure, but some turned mean fast. Stealing, fighting over scraps. Worse, I heard stories of whole neighborhoods turning into war zones. Not because of the zombies, but because of people. That's why I keep to myself. Less chance of getting burned. Still, I can't help but think about the other side. What if they're just folks trying to survive, like me? What if they've got a camp, a system, maybe even news from outside Nebraska? It's been 3 years since I heard anything reliable about the rest of the world. Last broadcast I caught, before the stations went dark, talked about quarantine zones on the coasts, military holdouts in Texas, but it was all vague. Half rumors for all I know. The whole country's like this now, just snow, zombies, and a few stragglers like me. But if those people know something, anything, it might be worth a risk to find out, or it might get me killed. Tough call. I'm trying to focus on what I can control. Tomorrow, I'll check the barns down the road for more wood. There's a couple I haven't searched yet, maybe a mile away. It's a risk, but the wood pile's down to a week's worth, and I can't afford to run out. I'll take the sled, the crowbar, and the rifle, same as yesterday. If I'm lucky, I'll find some boards or maybe some old furniture I can break down. If I'm not, well, I'll deal with that when it comes. One step at a time, right? I did have one scare today, late afternoon. I was out back, hauling water from the snow pile, when I heard something, not a moan, but a snap, like a branch breaking. I froze, scanned the tree line, but didn't see anything. Could have been the wind or an animal, but it put me on edge. I grabbed the rifle and waited, crouched by the barn. For a good 10 minutes, nothing came. Still, it's a reminder that I can't let my guard down, not even for a second. This place feels safe, but it's not. Nowhere is. On a lighter note, I spent some time messing with the radio setup tonight. The old tower's still holding, but the signal's been spotty. I tweaked the antenna, tightened some wires, and said a little prayer to the radio gods. Seems to be working okay now, but I'm no engineer. If this thing goes down, I'm not sure I can fix it. Losing the broadcast would be rough, not just for me, but for anyone out there counting on my voice. I know it's a long shot, but I like to think there's someone listening, maybe in a basement in Iowa or a cabin in Kansas, hanging onto my words like a lifeline. If you're out there, I hope you're doing okay. Hope's all we've got some days. I've been thinking about what I'd do if I had to leave this place, not just for a day trip, but for good. The farmhouse is solid, but it's not permanent. Wood's running low, food's tight, and those people in Milford are a wild card. If I had to move, where would I go? North's too cold, south might be warmer, but it's a long haul, and I don't have a car. East is Lincoln, and that's a no-go, too many zombies. West, maybe, toward the plains, but it's wide open, no cover. I've got that map from the gas station, so I could plan a route, but it's a last resort. For now, I'm staying put, making this work as long as I can. I keep coming back to Clara, wondering what she'd do. She was a wanderer, always moving, chasing her brother. I'm not built like that. I like having a base, a place to come back to. But she had a kind of courage I admire, the kind that keeps you going even when the odds are bad. I wonder if she found what she was looking for, or if she's still out there, walking. If you're listening, Clara, I hope you're safe. And if you ever pass through Nebraska again, look for a farmhouse with a beat-up radio tower. I'll save you some flatbread. The fire's gone out now, just ashes. I'm too tired to start it again tonight. I'll wrap up here, check the locks, and try to get some sleep. Tomorrow's another day, barns to search, snares to check, maybe another shot at that flatbread. If you're out there, keep your fires going and your doors barred. The cold creeping in through the cracks, the fire's gone. Just a pile of gray ash in the stove, and the air sharp enough to bite. Probably single digits outside. I'm wrapped in my blanket, fingers stiff around this mug of water, trying to keep my thoughts straight after today. It's been a rough one, maybe the roughest yet, but I'm still here, talking to you. Let's get into it, because a lot's happened since last night, and I need to tell you how it all wrapped up. I woke up early, before dawn, with that snap from yesterday still nagging at me. Couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I grabbed the rifle and checked the perimeter, moving slow in the dark. The snow was fresh, no tracks, but the quiet felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. I decided to stick with my plan, head to those barns down the road for wood. Maybe find something to keep the fire going a bit longer. The wood pile's down to a few days worth now, and I can't let it run out. So I packed light, rifle, crowbar, that sled from Milford, and Clara's pocket knife for good measure. Left the farmhouse locked up tight and headed out as the sky started to lighten. The barns were about a mile away, two old structures leaning into each other like they were tired of standing. The first one was a bust empty except for some rusted tools and a pile of moldy hay. The second was better. Found a stack of planks in the back, probably left over from some repair job. They were damp but solid, enough to keep the stove going for a week, maybe two if I'm careful. I was loading them onto the sled when I heard it again snap, sharper this time, from the trees nearby. I dropped low, heart pounding, and scanned the area. Nothing at first, just snow and shadows, but then I saw movement. Not a zombie, too quick, too deliberate. It was a person, crouched behind a tree, watching me. I stayed still, hand on the crowbar, trying to decide if I should call out or stay quiet. Before I could make up my mind, they moved, two of them, stepping out into the open. It was a man and a woman, both bundled in heavy coats, the man holding a hunting rifle, the woman a baseball bat. They didn't look like raiders, not like the ones I saw in Milford. Their clothes were worn but clean, and they moved like they were cautious, not aggressive. The man raised a hand, palm out, and called, "We're not here to fight, just want to talk." My first instinct was to bolt, but I was out in the open, sled half loaded, no cover. Running wasn't an option, and shooting first felt wrong. So I stood up, slow, keeping the crowbar in hand. "Talk from there," I said, loud enough to carry. "What do you want?" The man introduced himself as Tom, the woman as Lena. They said they were part of a small group, camped a few miles west, maybe 10 of them total. They'd been scavenging, same as me, and spotted me coming back from Milford yesterday. Been watching the farmhouse since, trying to figure out if I was trouble. I didn't like that they'd been watching, but I kept my cool. Tom said they weren't. Looking to rob me, just wanted to know if I'd trade. They had food, some Kent stuff, and were low on tools. Said they'd seen me with the hammer and nails, figured I might have more. I told them I didn't have much, but I'd hear them out. They invited me to their camp, said it was safer to talk there. I wasn't keen on following strangers, but the idea of food and maybe news pulled at me. I agreed to go, but only if we kept it small, just the three of us. They nodded, and we set off, me dragging the sled, them keeping their distance. The walk took about an hour, through fields and a patch of woods. Their camp was in an old school, boarded up like my farmhouse but bigger, with a makeshift fence of cars and barbed wire. Inside, it was warmer than my place, thanks to a couple of wood stoves and a generator humming in the background. There were 8 people, not 10, including a kid, maybe 7 years old, playing with a deck of cards in the corner. They had a setup, sleeping bags in classrooms, a kitchen area with canned goods stacked high, even a radio like mine, though it was off. They offered me a bowl of cereal stew with carrots and potatoes, and I nearly cried. First hot meal in months that wasn't just soup or jerky. We talked for a while. Tom and Lena were from Iowa, part of a group that formed after the outbreak. They'd been moving west, looking for somewhere stable. Said the cities were gone. Omaha, Des Moines, all overrun. They'd heard rumors of a safe zone in Colorado, some military base that was still holding, but nobody knew for sure. Their group was tight-knit, mostly families, and they were careful about outsiders. I told them about the farmhouse, my radio setup, how I'd been getting by. Didn't mention Clara or that Dyra felt too personal, but I showed them the nails and the screwdriver from Milford. We agreed to trade a dozen cans of food for the screwdriver, and half the nails. Felt fair, and I wasn't using the screwdriver much anyway. The kid, whose name was Ben, came over while we were talking. He asked if I'd seen any dogs. Broke my heart to tell him no, not since my Rusty passed. I told him about Rusty, how he chased sticks by the lake, and Ben's eyes lit up, said he had a dog before, a mutt named Scout, but they got separated in the chaos. I gave him Clara's pocket knife, not sure why, just felt right. Told him to keep it safe, use it for carving or something. His mom, Lena, gave me a look like she wasn't sure about it, but she didn't say no. Ben clutched that knife like it was treasure, and I felt a little lighter, like I passed something on. I stayed a couple of hours, long enough to eat and trade. They offered me a spot with them, said I could bring my radio setup, keep broadcasting. From the school, it was tempting, real food, people to talk to, safety in numbers. But something held me back. Maybe it's the farmhouse, maybe it's the radio tower, maybe it's just me being stubborn. I told them I'd think about it, but for now, I wanted to stay put. They didn't push, just gave me a bag with the cans, peaches, green beans, tuna, and walked me back to the edge of their camp. Tom said if I changed my mind, I knew where to find them. I nodded, dragged my sled, and headed home. The walk back was quiet, no snaps or moans, just the crunch of snow under my boots. Got to the farmhouse just as the sun was setting, locked up, and stashed the cans in the cellar. That's where I am now, sitting here, thinking about what comes next. Those people, Tom, Lena, Ben, the others, they're the first real hope I've had in a while. Not just the food, but the idea that there's still people out there trying to build something, not just survive. I'm not ready to join them, not yet, but knowing they're out there changes things, makes the world feel a little less empty. The radio's still my lifeline, though. Talking to you, whoever you are, keeps me grounded. I'm going to keep broadcasting, keep telling my stories, even if it's just me and Carl the Spider listening. The farmhouse is home for now, but I'm starting to think about the future. Maybe I'll visit that camp again, trade some more, maybe even move there if things get too rough here. The wood's still low, but with the cans from the trade, food's less of a worry for a bit. I'll keep checking the snares, keep making flatbread, keep the fire going as long as I can give myself a cremation something. I'm going to have to give a bit more thought, but it seems the most logical thing to do. It definitely does, and then with that I'm going to go now. I'm going to sign off and wish whoever is listening, if anyone, all the luck in the world, this frozen world, and I hope you and your loved ones make it. Goodbye.